Picture this: two families, one roof, endless possibilities. But here's the thing most people don't realize about dual-unit barndominiums. They're not just about sharing space. They're about reimagining what home actually means in a world that keeps pulling us further apart. And what we're about to explore might just change everything you thought you knew about multi-generational living. You see, there's this quiet revolution happening right now in the heartland of America. While everyone's obsessed with tiny houses and minimalism, something far more profound is taking shape in steel and timber. Families are discovering that the answer to our modern isolation isn't smaller, it's smarter. And the dual-unit barndominium? It's the architecture of connection wrapped in the soul of independence. Let me take you somewhere most design conversations never go. Forget the Pinterest boards for a moment. Forget the rustic chic Instagram posts with string lights and shiplap. Because what we're really talking about here is solving one of humanity's oldest tensions, the push and pull between togetherness and autonomy. Between, I need you close, and I need my own space. The dual-unit barndominium doesn't just acknowledge this tension. It celebrates it. It builds it into the very bones of the structure. Imagine waking up in your own private sanctuary. Your bedroom overlooks acres of land through floor-to-ceiling windows. The morning light pours in like honey. Your kitchen, your living room, your retreat. Everything designed exactly how you need it. But here's where it gets beautiful. Just beyond a shared wall, or across a breezeway, or connected by a covered walkway, your parents are brewing their morning coffee. Your adult children are starting their day. Your best friends turned co-owners are watching the sunrise from their porch, close enough to feel connected, far enough to breathe freely. This is what the architects and the Pinterest boards won't tell you. A dual-unit barndominium isn't really about square footage or construction costs per square foot. It's about the grandmother who gets to hear her grandchildren's laughter every day without sacrificing her evening solitude. It's about the young couple who can afford their dream property because they're splitting costs with family, but still get to close their own front door at night. It's about aging parents who maintain their dignity and independence while their children sleep peacefully knowing help is just steps away. The metal siding and the open floor plans and the vaulted ceilings? Those are just the stage. The real story is what happens when you design space that honors both connection and autonomy in equal measure. Now, let's talk about what makes this different from a duplex or a traditional home with an in-law suite, because this distinction matters more than you might think. A dual-unit barndominium is born from barn architecture, which means it starts with a completely different set of assumptions. Barns were never about division. They were about open possibility. They were about adapting to whatever the season demanded. And when you take that philosophy and apply it to residential living, something magical happens. Each unit becomes its own complete home, not a main house with an attachment. Not a primary residence with a secondary space. Two full homes, equally designed, equally intentional. Maybe one's 1,500 square feet and the other's 2,000. Maybe they're mirror images of each other. But both carry the same weight, the same respect, the same understanding that the people living there deserve a complete life. The shared spaces? This is where the poetry lives. Maybe it's a central mudroom where everyone enters, leaving their boots and their baggage before crossing into their private domains. Here's something that hits different when you really sit with it. In a traditional home, you're always negotiating. The thermostat, the TV volume, when to have guests over, what time is too late for music, when you're too tired for conversation but your family member wants to talk. Every single day is a series of small compromises that add up to this low-level exhaustion that we've just accepted as normal. The dual-unit design? It doesn't eliminate compromise, but it transforms it. Because now you're compromising on shared experiences, not shared survival. You're choosing when to be together rather than figuring out how to be apart. The power dynamic shifts completely. And financially? Let's go there for a moment, because this is where dreams either take flight or crash into reality. Building one large barndominium with two separate living spaces costs significantly less than building two separate homes. We're talking about shared walls, shared structural systems, one roof, one foundation approach. The cost efficiency is profound. But more than that, it's about resource sharing that actually makes sense. One large septic system, one well or water connection, shared utility infrastructure, split property taxes, split land costs, but you're not splitting your sanctuary. You're not splitting your peace. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually feels like to live in, because the emotional texture of these spaces is something floor plans can never quite capture. Morning comes, and each unit wakes up to its own rhythm. In one side, someone's blending a protein shake and rushing out for an early shift. In the other, someone's sitting in silence with tea and a book, watching the mist rise off the fields. No one's apologizing for their noise. No one's tiptoeing. Both mornings are exactly what they need to be. Evening settles in, and this is where you see the design philosophy truly come alive. Maybe both families naturally drift to that shared porch. Maybe one unit is hosting a dinner party with friends while the other is having a quiet movie night. And there's zero conflict because these are genuinely separate homes. Or maybe, just maybe, someone knocks on the connecting door with, "I made too much pasta? Want some?" And suddenly you're sharing a meal you never planned, and it feels like abundance instead of obligation. But here's what really gets me about dual-unit barndominiums, the part that keeps me thinking about them long after the initial fascination with the aesthetic fades. They represent a different answer to a question our society keeps getting wrong. For decades, we've been sold this story that success means isolation. That growing up means moving far away. That independence requires distance. That privacy demands separation. We've built suburbs of lonely castles where neighbors don't know each other's names and families only connect through screens and scheduled visits that require plane tickets and hotels. And it's killing us. The loneliness epidemic is real. The mental health crisis is real. The child care crisis, the elder care crisis, the sense that we're all just white-knuckling through life without a safety net. It's all connected to how we've designed our living spaces and our lives. The dual-unit barndominium whispers a different story. It says, what if you could have both? What if independence and connection aren't opposites, but dance partners? What if the architecture of your life reflected the complexity of your actual human needs instead of some outdated ideal of the nuclear family in their isolated suburban box? If you love this type of look, hit that subscribe button to help us create more videos. And let us know in the comments what you'd love to see in future videos. The way these spaces are actually configured tells you everything about their philosophy. Most dual-unit designs place the living spaces on opposite ends of the structure with shared or utility spaces in the middle. This creates a natural buffer. You're not hearing every conversation through the wall. You're not inadvertently part of someone else's life every moment. The entrances matter enormously. Some designs feature front entrances on opposite sides of the building. Others have side-by-side front doors that acknowledge the duality while maintaining the unity. Some create separate driveways and approaches so that each unit genuinely feels like arriving home to your own place, not like you're sharing an entrance with your landlord. Windows and orientation become this beautiful puzzle. How do you give both units the best views without making one feel like the secondary space? How do you ensure natural light floods both homes equally? How do you position outdoor spaces so both families have their own private deck or patio while still creating opportunities for chosen togetherness? The answers to these questions separate the mediocre designs from the transformative ones. And here's something that should excite anyone thinking about long-term wealth building and life flexibility. A dual-unit barndominium adapts to your life in ways traditional homes simply cannot, right now. Maybe you need it for multi-generational living. Your parents in one unit, your young family in the other. But in 10 years, maybe your parents have passed, and suddenly you have a rental income property built right into your homestead. Or maybe your kids have grown and moved out, and now you're Airbnb one unit while living in the other, creating passive income from your own land. Maybe you buy it with friends as a co-ownership investment. Maybe it becomes a home-in-home office setup where one unit is purely professional space. Maybe it's you and your sibling, both starting families at the same time, building wealth together instead of separately. The structure doesn't lock you into one story. It evolves with you. There's something profound about building a dual-unit barndominium that's different from conventional construction. Because you're not just hiring a contractor to build a house. You're making philosophical decisions. You're asking, how much togetherness? How much separation? What gets shared? What stays sacred? These aren't just construction questions. They're life questions. And the process of answering them, of working through them with whoever you're building this with, that process itself becomes part of the foundation. Not just the concrete foundation, but the relational one.